I don't think I look too bad for someone who slept 5 hours. But I've been having trouble sleeping. And I love this Dara because I wear it whenever I'm homesick and I miss my sister Naima. I feel like I've been run over by a truck. I've been having trouble sleeping, and I know it's because I'm stressed out. You know, I don't think we talk enough about how even when you know a breakup is coming, nothing prepares you for it. I've been thinking, but my mental health was doing well. Like, what happened? It's been tanking every single time I've heard from my ex, I've read from him, whether it's an email or a text this week. The money I got refunded for my 497 euro plane ticket to Kenya. I was refunded 39 euros. So it was sent to his account because he's the one who used to handle ticket bookings. And he sent it to me. So I have to give him his flowers. But just seeing from my banking app that his name, that must have been on Wednesday or Thursday, when my keys went missing. Maybe Wednesday, I don't even remember, or Tuesday, I don't even remember. But things just started to spiral downwards. So I've been staying up all night and sleeping at 4 a.m. Then finally yesterday I clocked. Actually today I got to 5 a.m. I hadn't slept. I was chatting with my sister Charity from home. Just talking about the baby, our baby, and how, making plans for the future. Like, women, we're always talking about our things. I remember my friend Shiko telling me that she once told her mom, you guys should just talk about your things and stop talking about us. And then her mom tells her, but you're our children, you're our things. Which is so true. I think there's certain things we learn when we become parents and aunties. And the only people who have given me a hard time about calling myself a foster mom or calling myself a mom or being called a mom by other mothers, like, is men. So I had a fallout with my spiritual dad. He's in his late 70s. He started mansplaining some situation to me, telling me, oh, you're the one. Then this is what he said: you're the one who chose to go to Germany. No one sent you there. Classic victim blaming, which boomers love to do. I've blocked him. And I'm waiting for the Christians and Africans to come after me and say, oh, but Sharon, you need to respect your elders. I am respecting him by blocking him, because if he calls me one more time, and you know how our grandparents call, my grandma is his age. My grandma will call you once, and if you don't pick, she'll call you a second time, not after half an hour, then. So imagine you're sat at a meeting and you'd forgot to turn off your ringer, you end a call, and then before you have the presence of mind, maybe you were even in the middle of a presentation or a thought. You're here giving your boss a report after a few leave days. You went to Dala, you went to see your grandma, you came back. Now she's calling you to tell you, oh, you forgot the rice, or you forgot the omena, or you forgot the anything, managu. And she's calling you once, twice. It gets to a place where you're like, excuse me, just give me a second. So that you end the call and switch off your phone. God forbid you need your phone on because you're also a parent, and then your child you sent on an errand, like I've done today, and you need them to go do ABCD. They're sending things over to you through a friend coming into the country from Kenya. So you're forced to block them, at least for a time. Then when you realize that you're peaceful, you're like, wait, how come I'm not running around? How come I'm not always, on high alert, and you're like, oh, I blocked my mother, I blocked my grandma, I blocked my, it's always a boomer or a man. I have been using the block button lately. So recently, some guy checks up on me. He's like, oh, just checking to make sure you're okay. Someone whom I don't care for, really. I really don't, because we had a difference of opinion on something about um, the genocide in Palestine, and he spoke so ignorantly. There's a black man who calls it whataboutism. So on Instagram, I wish I could give him credit because this is not on me. He's given me language for the thing I'm feeling. And I love it when people do that. That's why I love social media. I consume it like I consume school because I learned so much that actually impacts my life and how I relate to people and how I communicate and the words I choose when I'm talking to people and how I navigate conversations. So, for instance, um, you start talking about something racist, and the white people around you feel uncomfortable. Then they decide, but what about all the white people who've done good things? Or, worse still, but what about all the genocides in Africa? But what about tribalism? You guys turn on each other. But so you talk about your thing that made you uncomfortable or your issue that you're airing. Like I complain about microaggressions. I was on a tram recently, and this is racism related stress. This is, in fact, if the way pastors tell you, if you're to take anything away from my sermon, take this. This is about racism related stress and what it's like to exist in Germany as a black woman and as a dark black woman and as a skinny dark black woman, because skinny bodies are really, really fetishized by white men. So this is the thing. I remember the first time my friend told me, I don't want to say his name. My friend told me that I have the ideal body for a white man, and it started with how we were discussing body types and how everyone has their preference. And he said, but Sharon, you're not my type, you're barely there. I don't think he even knows that that stayed with me. It really messed me up because I already knew he liked his women thick. Most men I know, because I know mostly black men, like thick women. I've only met one guy who likes women, two actually, who like women who are athletic and they're both runners. And so it got to a place where I started to gravitate towards men who run or men who have my physique, because then I wouldn't, that insecurity about my body would not be triggered so easily, or so I thought. So, um, my friend says I have the ideal body for a white man. I was in Kenya, it was 2018, and he says, in the way you love reading books, and the way you're a radical feminist, and the way you've now locked your hair. Had I locked my hair by then? No. I used to wear an afro, and the way you like to wear your hair natural. And then he says in Swahili, I don't even know how to translate this, imebaki tu uweke nyam nyam hapa kwa nywele. Like, all that's left to do is for me to put like a sort of shell. Nyam nyam is not the word for shell. It's just, I knew what he meant. To just put a shell in my hair or something afro, you know, something Afrocent. I don't know what the word is, but something African, something native. Because, oh, the fetishization of native things like our waist beads and our anklets and all the things that white people look at and they see you as this exotic fruit they want to pluck from the tree. So I'm on the tram. It's 11 p.m. I am exhausted after about 5 hours of cleaning. I've boarded it with an older black man who's, he's built well, because I've noticed people don't bother me when I'm with him. So I like to carry him around as live armor, literally. And yet, someone says chocolat. So I walk back as dramatically as I can and I'm like, excuse me, did you just call me chocolate? And I say this very loudly on the tram, and he has this smirk on his face, and he says, "Oh, I was just saying something about chocolate," and he's smiling, and I'm like, I'll mess you up. Like, I do see that you're in a wheelchair, but I'll actually mess you up. Then his friend, and I didn't say mess, I said more like fudge you up. So his friend is sat there, and he's watching all this unfold, and he quickly jumps in and says, "Oh, he was talking to me." And I'm like, "You're sure? You're sure it was you he was talking to about chocolate?" And this guy on the wheelchair is still smiling sheepishly. He knows what he's done. Not all men, but always a man, including a man on a wheelchair. Like, because you see, I can see that in his mind, he's like, you're not going to trip me. Plus I have my friend here. So the audacity that a man has when, if he can't use brute force, his friend will use it. Both were Arabs. Decide. I told him, you better check yourself. Like, watch yourself. Yeah, I'm glad your friend has said it was him you were talking to. Otherwise, and I walk away. And I cuss him out when I go. And it's because I've decided I'm done being the good person. You see, the nice girl who quietly takes it when someone says something, when someone looks at them, when someone grabs their junk, when they look at me on the tram at night. I'm done. You want to grab your junk? I reach for my phone. I'm like, I'm about to start recording you, and I know we have that in shoots in Germany with data protection, for my own protection, because I feel uncomfortable with what you're doing. Like, when they say black women are not safe everywhere, and then I've had people ask me, "Oh, really? Is it that bad?" The only person who understands is my therapist and my girlfriends. But all the men are out here acting like, "Oh gosh, is it really that bad?" I'm like, you think you actually, it's crossed your mind that I'm doing this for social media likes. It's crossed your mind. And it's okay. Everyone is allowed to have their doubts. For instance, my keys went missing on Thursday. I tried calling my colleague. I had been dumpster diving. I couldn't find my keys. I couldn't reach him on phone. I send him a text, he doesn't respond. I tell him, it's interesting that my keys have gone missing while you are on my floor. Like, right when I locked a certain class, and when I moved to the next class, I didn't have the key at some point. So either I dropped it and you saw it and you picked it, and other thoughts that were going on in my head. So what I actually told him was, it's a funny coincidence that I call you, you don't pick. I text you, you reply, you tell me to check with the guy I came with to help me at work. And then I tell you, I'm sure he doesn't have the key because I remember receiving it and I remember locking the class while you were on my floor. I could see you. I had just asked you to come open a certain office for me, and you took 1 hour to come in. You're on the second floor. I'm cleaning on the first floor. 1 hour. Then that wouldn't be so bad if, let's say you have a rhythm, you don't want to break the rhythm. That same day, and we have 4 hours to clean because the alarm is set at 10 p.m. It's already evening. I already started after 6. Why? Because when I came, and he knew, I had asked him at about 4 p.m. or 3:30 p.m. while he was on his way to the school, would you be so kind as to open the offices for me, the inner offices, because I only have keys to the classrooms because I'm new. Could you please be so kind as to open the inner offices? And I probably didn't say, please be kind. I'm tired of him. Would you kindly open the offices for me? And he's like, you get here first. Or just get here. I'm like, why are you giving me instructions on how to work? You see, I want you to arrive while you're going up the steps. Open the offices. They are all of 5. 5. They are not 12,000 offices. Open them. Prop them open with a chair from right there, even a trash can if you don't want to struggle too much, just so that I don't have to bother you again. I brought all this up. I was like, you know, I'm now collecting in my mind that I ask you to open offices for me, you take an hour. I come here waiting to start to clean, and he knows I have a rhythm. Why? Because I told him I have ADHD and possibly autism. Trust an ableist fool to use that against me. So do you know what that does? It gives me anxiety about coming to work. It gives me anxiety about being alone with a black man in a building. I was so happy that we had teachers yesterday doing meetings and stuff like that. I now prefer to go to work at 6 so I don't encounter him, because I'm hoping by that time he's finishing up. Guys, when I tell you, I'm reading this book, Hood Feminism, and it talks about so many important things, so many things. But I remember because we discussed this and other books at the book club I joined in Kenya, courtesy of Shiko and other black feminists, Kenyan feminists, look at me saying black, Kenyan feminists. One of the things we were talking about is how feminism has included black men. Black feminism. Because we recognize that white supremacy is a common enemy. So, for instance, when I meet a black man who is struggling to get accommodation, I have had no problem with housing him or hosting him for a short time, a few days, while he gets his footing. And I've done this with a couple of guys who my gut just told me I could host. My intuition is strong. After you've been sexually assaulted, you make a deal with God twice. You make a deal with God and you tell him, look, I've already had non-consensual sex and I've been sexually assaulted after being groomed for a year by someone who claims you in church. So what you're going to do, you're going to give me the intuition of like 3 grandmothers, 3 African grandmothers. In fact, let's add South American so that it's a complete, and native, so that it's a complete whole intuition where when I meet someone, you guys, when I meet someone nowadays, I can tell when this person is bad. And I know most of us don't believe in premonitions. I know most of us probably think it's voodoo. I believe it is God's way of protecting women from men. Because I remember the first time I heard this guy's voice and I was sleeping, I woke up. I just felt this energy is bad. Like this person has bad energy. And I'm saying this because that's what I felt. And I told myself, Sharon, be rational. I mean, I don't trust men. When I said this to him, I told him, clearly you can say I have trust issues. So he doesn't say anything all the way from Thursday. Then my colleague, the guy I've brought to work, finds my keys, allegedly, tells me on Monday morning. So let me play that back. I met someone at a moving job through my housemate. Let's call him Rusty. Rusty is a slightly older African man. And I tell Rusty, I have a cleaning job at a school. It's back-breaking work. Can you fill in for me on some days? Rusty says, cool. I go with Rusty to work on my first Monday. No, not my first Monday. I think my first day was Monday. I think I went with him on either Tuesday or Wednesday. And I show him what needs to be done. I think on Tuesday, so that on Wednesday he does it himself. Then he gets paid. So when I get paid, I will be giving him what I owe him. And I've told him, if at any point you feel like you can't trust me because, again, you don't know me, write down your hours. Bring them to me every week if you want. I'll sign, because signed documents here are binding in Germany. I think in Kenya as well, I don't know, but I know here, if you write something, even handwritten, like, oh, this is a contract between me, it's binding. You can take that to court. So I tell him, yeah, considering I'm here talking about making plans to go to Kenya because I'm fed up with Germany, just do that so that you cover yourself. You make sure you're good, you're covered. We had agreed with Rusty, and he tells me on a Monday morning, he sends me a picture. He says, found your keys at this and this place. You know, I know the place he found the keys. I'm trying to figure out how they wound up there. I'm really trying to figure out how they wound up there because I still remember cleaning room 107 and moving to the next. And again, why I suspect I'm autistic is because I have a particular pattern of cleaning. I have a particular pattern of the checkups I do before I start cleaning. I have a particular way of filling the water. And if I break from that cycle, everything goes to hell. I relate very well with my autistic clients and my autistic kids because, and when I say my kids, I mean the kids who are either my clients, their parents are my clients. And so we bring in my health coaching program start. And so I work with neurodivergent people and I'm neurodivergent myself. For someone to deny your reality when they don't have a diagnosis or they're neurotypical is so ableist. It is so dehumanizing. It is giving gaslighting because how do you do that to another person? It's like seeing someone who cannot access a place. It's like putting an obstacle on a ramp when you see someone coming with a wheelchair. An obstacle that they can't get over it. And it's a small thing, but you put it there. So for me, it's like when people move things around to piss me off. I remember the first time I asked to clean his table when I was cleaning at his place. And I was like, I promise I'll return everything where it's supposed to be anyway, because neurodivergence, I'll be able to know where everything was. I can take before and after pictures. And he says something to the tune of, no one touches my table. I think it will be good practice for your OCD to learn that you can't control everything. I'm just paraphrasing what he said. But you see that yucky feeling you just got right now when I said that? Now imagine how I felt because this was coming from someone I was dating. Now understand why every single time this person's, even their name comes up, my body just feels sick. And then now you're replaying all the things they said to you over the past 3 years and realizing, wait, this one sounds like a story. And then you look for evidence. And then you look back to that photo. And then you remember, oh yeah, that's the day we went to visit his sister, who is now talking smack about you. And you'd gone to help out with the kids. And he was seated on the couch the whole day. And you went home with back pain. And it's happened each of the 2 Christmases you've been here. I have a special disdain for men, but I have an even greater one for women who gatekeep patriarchy, especially under the guise of religion. All these people who decide to make us feel bad by making statements like, but you were not even married, but you did not even have kids. Our finances were tied. Like, I got into business with this person when I was 25. We did rabbit breeding, it failed. So even when we broke up, I remember him sort of trying to remind me, like, okay, so is there anything we're going to get out of this? Like when you sell the iron roofing, because it was a rabbit hutch. And I was like, this guy was in Germany. I was in Kenya. I had just lost my savings. He had money, but because we've broken up and I want And he keeps using that. I don't know why I keep forgetting. I need to stop collecting red flags. He's done this before. When we broke up, it was, yeah, I just want to, like close things up. I don't want to leave anything pending between us. And I was thinking, mabati, nambao, like 2 by 2, 4 by 4 planks of wood and chicken wire is what you're hustling me over. Your half of the money, which was roughly 80,000 shillings at the time. And I'm not saying it's not little money, but when I asked you whether you were serious about investing, you said that, paraphrasing, you believed in me, and if I believed in something, you wanted to be part of it. Then now that it's not worked, and then you and I have not worked. When it didn't work, you were sad. We were like, yeah, let's move on. You even said you felt, paraphrasing, worse for me because it was all my money. I had been earning 25K after tax on a receptionist salary. So I had lost more. I was working in Kenya because I'd saved up that money for a year. But then this man, after you break up with him, wants to remind you, oh, there's a time we did rabbit breeding, and then, so did you get any proceeds from? So you're here going to your grandmother's house compound, and I couldn't go to her compound for a long time after this because I felt so betrayed because I'd hired someone who had been staying in her compound, who's like family to us, to do this one job. I used to send money to his wife every end of the week, faithfully when he did his work, or every end of the month. Like whenever we had agreed, whatever we'd agreed on, I kept my end of the bargain. Not all men, but always a man at this point. So at this point, I think it is really all men. So, you start remembering how he treated you at 25 and how he's treated you at 35 and how there's been no difference. And then you start to get angry with yourself for settling for such poor behavior, for not seeing it, for missing the red flags. And I remember reading something that really called me out. A friend of mine and some friends of mine have really reacted to that post, and they're like, gosh, why are you calling me out like this? And I'm like, you and I, sis, you and I. And it's, we ignore red flags because it did not bother us as much at the time, or because we thought we could change the person, because we believed in them or whatever. Or the one that, this one kills me because this is exactly what my friend Olive warned me about the day I decided I'd break up with my ex. She was like, Sharon, you're in love with this man's potential, and that man doesn't exist. I was at a train station. Everything stopped. Do you know, like, time stopped? Everything stopped for all of a couple. And she told me, you're going to be fine. You just need to decide. And that is the day I decided I was ending that relationship. And that was days before I told him. And then, this is the funny thing. I decided I'm ending the relationship. But of course, you're taking a few days. You're like, okay, let me first work. And then when I'm done with work, because I was on my way to Berlin when she called me, when I'm done working, I can go back and break up with him in person, like a decent human being. That's 10 hours by train, sometimes 15. And then you start having conversation. Oh, that's to my place, Passau. And then another 3 to his, 3.5. So I'm there thinking, yeah, we're going to do this in person. I'll tell him to come to Passau so I feel safer. It's within, my control. It's in a public place. And then this guy starts talking to you and saying things like, you'd better tell the next guy that your work comes first so that he's prepared. I'm paraphrasing what he said, so that he's prepared, because it really sucks to be the person who, you feel like you're the second priority or something of the sort. I don't even remember the exact words anymore because so much was said that was so deeply hurtful, that made me feel like a bad person. And I actually believed it for all of 2 seconds, and it hit me. I was like, wait. So when I stayed with you for 3 months straight, cooking, cleaning, and screwing, that was not me making you my first priority. When I missed out on an opportunity, and this is the one I regret the most, to the opportunity to come to Berlin to do DIY projects last year summer and to get summer jobs where I would have made upwards of 3 to 5,000 euros. And I can tell from the projection of the money I was paid in Berlin that I would have made that money and I would have recovered what I lost in my life savings in my farming venture. So I lost money potentially because I was being a good girlfriend and going barbecuing at your sister's place, your sister and her husband, and hanging out with you. We didn't go on holiday. It was my first summer here. Even his sisters have asked him, like, you were just there seated in the house, like, you don't take her to dinner, you don't do these things. And I told them, oh no, me, I'm not a dinner person. I like to watch movies at home. I like to, but the things I do like is going out for walks in the park, and we do that. I left out the part where we'd stopped doing that because I got tired of asking. Like, when you're begging someone for attention, it's dehumanizing, it's humiliating, it erodes your self-esteem. So now, when I take stock, I now understand why I'm going through a depressive episode. I was made to feel like I wasn't enough, and he's accused me of doing the same to him. He told me I made him feel like a fat alcoholic. That broke me. Of all the things a person can say to me, and I think he knows, because he knows I can't stand fat phobia. It's part of the reason why I had a fight with my colleague. He made a comment about someone's body, and I was like, excuse me. The first time I was working with him, told him I am a health coach. My background is in nutrition. I cannot stand or stomach anyone having opinions about anyone's body. You don't know what people are going through. And this is how I sound when I'm defending anyone. I get fierce because all these people pushing narratives about, but people need to stop being fat and lazy. Me, I'm waiting for them to come to my timeline. I throw the science at them because that is such a stupid, like such an ignorant, small-minded, bigoted statement to make. I can't stand people who are fat phobic. I can't stand people who are body shamers. Especially if you're skinny and you eat trash and you get away with it. I'm usually the first person to go like, yeah, go to hospital, we check your cholesterol. And when we find that your arteries are clogged, I'm one of those people who will roll my eyes at you. I will actually roll my eyes at you unapologetically. Because now you're in the shoes of, oh, wait, oh, this could happen to me. Yeah. Let nature be the perfect revenge sometimes. So, anyways, I've been sharing about having social anxiety, but the truth is, I've been in a depressive episode that's persisted, and it's been so bad. I got trigger warning, suicidal in July. I couldn't sit an exam on the 15th, and I wrote my professors to tell them. And then I've been sharing and asking. And every Black person I've talked to has told me, yeah, I've struggled with suicidal ideation. And I've not asked many again. Like, it's not everyone I've interviewed who said they've been suicidal, but it's the people I've been talking to lately asking, have you gotten to a place where you just wanted it to end? And they're in my vicinity. And of the ones I've talked to, and I don't have friends in Leipzig, but the people I've talked to so far around here, like Berlin and beyond, are like, yeah, one day it crossed my mind. I was like, what am I still doing here? Germany is the ghetto. It's the absolute ghetto for Black people. I know the government has probably touted it as a place where you can get paid 140K for cleaning or 120K for cleaning for 4 hours a day, 5 days a week, but they won't tell you that you need a blocked account with 12,000 euros to be a student here. They won't tell you that the microaggressions from Germans who can't stand that you don't speak German will wear at you. They won't tell you that those jobs are backbreaking, which is why when we come home, we want to spend that money like there's no tomorrow. They won't tell you that you will be called chocolate on a tram. I was called hot chocolate by my first boss. He showed me naked pictures of a woman, a black woman. He held up a glass of beer to my face and said it looked like my skin. That was my first job here. I was only weeks old. This guy was 62. And then it goes on. The 20-year-old in Passau who made a sexual pass at me because he discovered on Instagram that I do yoga, and he insisted and pushed and pushed and like, yeah, just teach me. I'm shy. I'm this. And I'm like, calm down. I'm coming to the house. You tell me what your issues are. But I had a suspicion this was just fetishization of black women because I had been doing my research and collecting data. And he's white passing. He's one of those, he's from a Stan country. And his name sounds like Jordan or Yordik. I don't know. So he comes to my room and he wants to walk in. I'm like, excuse me, where are you going? He's like, yeah, I thought we could do fitness. I'm like, not in my room. I told you it's either outside or elsewhere and in public. And secondly, this is where I sleep. You don't just walk into my room. And you've not even asked me the cost. So what are you telling me you're coming to pay? How much is it? I told him 60 euros for an hour. That's a euro for an hour of my time. I don't know who is paid 60 euros in this country. It's definitely not what you paid on minimum wage. And he's like, oh yeah, that's too much for me. He goes to his room, he sends me inappropriate pictures. Then he deletes them and he says sorry when I knock on his door. And I asked him, what have you sent me? And I asked him in German, was hast du mir geschickt? Oh, sorry, blah, blah, blah. Suddenly now he can speak English. You know, I told him, I will fuck you up. And I came back to my room and I called people and he came knocking on my door and I told him, get out. And I locked my door. 2 weeks after I had left vacation. Then I leave Passau. I'm dealing with my ex. And then my ex is here telling me, oh, by the way, he moved out of the house because I reported it. And then, who reported it for me? My ex. How long did it take him? 48 hours. And I looked at him and I'm like, so you know I've been sexually assaulted and I've been treated poorly by the cops because I reported late. And yet you did the exact same thing. I gave you my statement officially. The day this happened, you did nothing. Then the day after that, you did nothing. Then I come to your house and then I realize after over 24 hours, or is it almost 48 hours, I'm asking you about the email you should have sent. He's like, oh, I thought we were going to work on it together. No, that's you not thinking. That's you refusing to think and that's you refusing to work. Alongside him complaining that I had found work in Berlin and saying, you're 15 hours away. Now it feels like you're in Kenya because flight to Kenya is 15 hours. And I was like, do you realize you've not congratulated me on working my first job? The first thing you've done is complain. So men are out here complaining that women don't want to work. And then they complain when we find work. There's no winning. Then when we find work after 2 years, they claim that we have prioritized work over them. And then, what's the other thing I'm trying to recall? Oh, and then he added, please block my sisters because they've I think they'd threatened to get in touch with me. I told him that is harassment. I am not blocking them. If any of your sisters, warn them, gets in touch with me, I am going to the cops. Oh, and by the way, I'm not lying. I will send someone to jail at this point. At this point, where these women want to gang up against me and say you used our brother's money. Me, I didn't sleep with any of you and I didn't date any of you. This nonsense interference is half the reason I am so far away from Bavaria. I can't stand enmeshed relationships anymore. I can't. Where your umbilical cord is still attached back home and to all your 10 siblings cannot be me. Because that's a discussion we've had and it's touched on money. And what I was told without being told is I don't have siblings, so how could I possibly understand? I was like, cool, 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 cool. So when he complains, oh, I've had to send money for this, oh, I've had to do this with this, oh, I go and sip water, or I look at my phone, or I'm just quiet because can't have an opinion. There's no winning. If you have an opinion, it's problematic. If you don't, it's safer. By the time a woman leaves, there's nothing you can do to bring her back. Men, let me tell you something. We don't live on the day we leave. I begged for affection. I begged for intimacy. I begged for us to travel together. I found work. I begged for help with applying for a house. And then I got a house and I was not safe. So you know what I did? I looked for a house in another city myself. Because when you're begging a man to help you and he's your man, when your own man will tell you it's your luggage, you should carry it because I guess he's punishing you for identifying as a feminist. He's a big guy. He passes for a rugby player. I've realized men are just punitive. They're punitive when you turn down their sexual advances. They're punitive when, like the 12-year-olds they all are, they like you, they can't tell you, so they pull on your ponytails or your pigtails. And the adult version of that is they bully you because they have feelings for you or they have a hard on for you and they can't do anything about it. Or this is a classic, they withdraw care. So they had promised to help you with something or promised to pay you for something, they don't do it. Because how dare you not give me what I want, even if the thing they want is your body? Why do you think they have such a problem with abortion? Why do you think men have such a problem, are so quick to talk about tampons having heavy metals? There are more heavy metals in a glass of water. And as the doctor said, what's her name, the OBGYN who debunked that myth, that stupid research, it's because tampons are made of cotton. And someone in the comment section said something interesting. It's interesting that tampons were invented by men and sanitary towels by women. And this doctor also said, I think it's Dr. Gunther, she says, whenever anyone is fear mongering about a woman's body, especially when it has to do with something that is inserted inside a woman's body, the patriarchy is not too far behind. Men need to leave us alone. And I've said this publicly, men need to marry men. Just start marrying men. Yeah. Marry other men because other men are so perfect. Especially you Andrew Tate minions. Go marry other men. Leave women alone. Yeah, because we are not interested. We are done.